Today, I talk about the EMR. I'm going to give us a bit of perspective on some of the insights that he has through his work at Pentavere. I should mention as well that Pentavere just received a very prestigious pre-Downing award, which is quite notable. I think I'm going to speak about that as well. So without further ado, Aaron.
Perfect. Okay. There's a saying that people plan and God laughs. So the initial intent of our presentation is we're going to have a few clinicians, a few dermatologists up on the stage, and they were going to share from a clinical perspective, number one, how difficult it is working with their EMRs at no fault of the EMR systems for them to understand their patients, for them to intervene based on evidence. They were going to actually talk about, from their perspective, the process of working with PSPs and how it can actually improve care. And as you can see, you're stuck with me today. So we pivoted, and we're changing the topic to why PSPs can become a powerful force in real-world evidence generations to improve patient care and make Canada a global center of excellence that contributes to improving the human condition. And I do not say that lightly. And how that can be achieved is through real-world evidence generation. And I know that the majority of this room, you're not the medical colleagues, when you think about real-world evidence generation and what those plans are, but real-world evidence generation to have global impact is possible, and I believe that the mechanisms to deliver that is through PSPs. For those who know me, I'm going to do something I don't usually do, which is put a picture up on the screen. Ian was kind enough to mention that 2 weeks ago, Pentavere received the Pre-Gallion USA Best Digital Health and Medical Technology Award. I believe we're the only Canadian company to have been awarded such a prestigious award. How we did that, and I can see some folks in the room today, Melina, I'm looking at you, was through real-world evidence generation with AI, unlocking the EMR data. But what I want to share is, as I was standing up on that stage with folks that I had no reason to be on stage with, Pfizer, Paxlovid, the message I want to share with you is anything is possible. When you put patients first and when you do what is right for patients, the purpose of me putting this picture up is anything is possible. So what I'd like to do is talk about, when we think about the context of patient support programs, how Canadian patient support programs has the potential to become a valuable global asset for innovative life sciences. And by strategizing and optimizing PSPs to harness real-world evidence, will transform health outcomes, earn global recognition, and elevate those who manage and support PSP as true leaders and innovators in patient care. And I'd like to walk through why and how. So the first is real-world evidence is transformative for our industry, and that transcends just the medical realm. When the 21st Century Care Act was passed in the United States and Congress mandated that real-world evidence and frameworks associated with real-world evidence has to be accepted for the approval and the innovation and acceleration of our drugs. And there are cases, and a growing list of cases, where the FDA is approving therapies and treatments just based on RWE alone. We know in May 2023, Health Canada published their guidance. So Health Canada has said, yes, we will accept RWE as evidence for a whole range of purposes. And then in February of this year, PAB, which is groundbreaking. I think as an industry, we fully haven't realized what the potential is of that, said that RWE, as long as it meets this framework, can fit and be used for advertising and commercializations. And that's in the background. This standardization, this normalization is in the background of, as we all know, costs to bring innovations to market is going up. and sales isn't going up as fast, and we're all feeling that pressure. And PSP is an incredible opportunity to unlock that value. Number two, we understand less than 10% of our population. So when we're talking about data, and this includes in clinical trials, we have data on less than 10% of the real world population. Just a first data point, the average comorbidities in a clinical trial participant has 2. It's double that in the real world, and PSPs are capturing that information. Most patients fall through the cracks in healthcare systems, and that is true in clinical trials, and that is true in clinical care. And the majority of health data that we create that speaks to these interactions, significant amounts within the PSP programs as is unstructured, so it's not used, and 90% of that data isn't used to help improve population health. My friend Duran says it best when she says that the ability to understand the whole of the patient journey at scale is a game changer that can prove as impactful as decoding the human genome. And a lot of this untapped data is existing right under many of our noses today. Number 3, the PSPs that you manage are globally significant sources of real-world evidence. There are 4, Canada's unique in our applications. I know many of you feel the pressure in the room of the costs of running PSP programs, but we are unique. We have 400, this is from our friends at 20 cents, 400 active patient support programs are being hosted today in Canada. 175 of them are in oncology alone. That's approximately 600,000 patients that this community, that many of you are spending your days managing, putting down programs, the collection and care of these patients. Canada is one of the most diverse countries in the world. So the population that we have access to, that we're generating meaningful data on, is incredibly diverse with representation from so many different cultures from around the world. To put that in perspective, there's currently about 1.7 million Canadians actively enrolled in a clinical trial, of which 2/3 are being funded by innovative science. And I share this with you because think about all of the resources, the exposure, the organization around managing those 1.1 million Canadians, identifying them, collecting data on them to read out across Canada. There's 600,000 of these patients that are under our noses that can generate meaningful real-world data. And number 4, your PSP programs today have valuable data. I want to thank our partners, Shoppers Specialty Health Network, wonderful partners that really put patients first. And together, we started our journey by saying, as is, if we were to evaluate the data that we currently have around a particular program against the most strenuous fit-for-purpose regulatory frameworks from Europe, from Canada, from the FDA, what is the quality of that data? What is the quality of that data to be able to generate meaningful real-world evidence studies, meaningful insights into patients to close care gap loops? And what we found, and this is only a selection, is in attributes that are incredibly important, in attributes that take a huge investment in the course of a clinical trial or a retrospective, non-interventional style. Not only do we have them, but the quality of that data from a missing data perspective, from a robustness perspective, is very high. And that's really a testament to all the hard work of all the folks in the room today. And lastly, data generated from PSPs is and can be used for research and regulatory grade data and submissions. My colleague Brad from IQVIA shared a whole slew of RWE studies. What we're showing that's in the public domain is an example of PSP data that was not being used. Didn't even know there was value. I shouldn't say that. Is folks from Takeda in the room? No? Congratulations. But they had the courage, right, to go on this journey. data was actually used and submitted and led directly to a product monograph expansion. So it really shows you that this isn't about tomorrow. These are things that can happen today. I want to switch gears. I see I have 15 minutes left. I'm not going to take that long. Hopefully there'll be questions. But I want to switch gears when we're talking about real-world evidence and the statement that I made about how we can all be partners to use data to improve the human condition through PSPs, and how RWE can be the mechanism and carrier for that. In the last 5 days, I myself, for the first time in my life, experienced the helplessness, the vulnerability of what it is to be a patient. My son was diagnosed recently with a non-cancerous but ultra-rare brain tumor. And, please don't judge me, but along my journey of finding Pentavere and doing the work and winding up on that stage at Galleon, I met a few folks along the way. And over the last 4 days was able, very luckily, to marshal resources, to look at images, to get on the phone, to give their opinion even before the requisition was made as we're digesting what this is. It's osteochondroma, which is a fairly known growth that's usually benign that comes out of the bones. What's ultra rare about what is happening with my son is it's in the front lobe of the skull going into the brain, but there's less than 30 cases of this in the world. And I share this because as I was on the phone, it wasn't the pedigree. It wasn't who we were speaking to that gave me and my wife comfort. It was the data. It was the evidence. It was their ability to communicate to us as patients with facts, with knowledge, with evidence of the real world around what's happening and what we think we should be doing. And that's where we just don't know. There's such little amount of data. It's one of the reasons I'm so incredibly excited. One of the things that Ian didn't mention was that in December of last year, we were acquired by a company called HealWell AI, which is part of the Well Health ecosystem, one of Canada's largest private networks for health. And I think about that partnership. I think about our partnership with Shoppers Drug Mart and Specialty Health Network, putting patients first, all with the shared mission to identify and unlock information that we can use that data to improve the lives of patients. But what I want to share with you is if we can unlock, and as we're unlocking data that's in the PSPs, as a patient, as going through, because, when it's your kid, you wish it's you. Nothing gave more comfort in the last 48 and 72 hours than data and facts and clear communication. And we all have that opportunity to do that for our own businesses, for Canada, and to really improve the human condition is what ultimately that Galleon Award, that Galleon Prize is all about. And, thank you very much for listening. And be heroes in your organizations. PSPs are not a cost structure. It's not table stakes of what needs to get done in Canada. I know what we're doing and how we're unlocking and some of the plans that has. It could be a game changer to improve our healthcare system while accelerating your innovations in an appropriate way. So thank you so much.